Welcome back to Play Musical Stats, where I tell you stats about the plays and musicals that I've seen so far in the year 2026. It is March 3rd, 2026, as I record this, and I have seen 21 shows so far this year. And today, the stats that we were talking about have to do with how long the intermission was compared to how long it was stated that the intermission would be. Now we've got some inconclusive data on some of these, so let's talk about that. 5 of these shows did not have an intermission, so we are not counting those towards these stats. I thought about counting them as 0, but that would imply that their intermission was exactly as long as they said it would be, and that's kind of the case, but they didn't have an intermission, so we're not counting those 5. 5 of these shows, I do not have data on what the stated intermission time was. Sometimes they'll say how long it is in the program. Sometimes they'll announce how long it is, and I would write it down. Sometimes they would do both. But there are 5 shows where either they didn't say it at all. Sometimes they just say we're going to have an intermission, or they said it and I didn't write it down and it wasn't in the program. So, 10 shows are not counted in this data. Of the remaining 11, there are 2 that I have approximate times for. So you could say that there's a little bit of room for error there, but I think it's close enough to work with. And one of them, I didn't write it down, but I've been to that venue twice. And the other one that I went to, the intermission time was exactly what they said, so 0 minutes late. And the start time when I went was exactly as they said, 0 minutes late. So I'm going to give them credit for being punctual, and I'm going to assume that that one counts as a 0. But I will give you 2 sets of numbers just to be safe. So if we count only the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that I have real, actual, clear data on, then it's a total of 27 minutes past when the intermission should have happened. Those 8 shows together collectively had 27 minutes past how long they said intermission would last. Which is about 3 minutes and 22 seconds on average, which isn't too horrible. If we include the 3 that I have shaky data on, then that becomes a total of 37 minutes divided by 11 shows, gets us about 3 minutes and 20. It's still about 3 minutes 22 seconds. The first one was 3 minutes and 22.5 seconds. The other one is 3 minutes 21.8 seconds. So roughly the same, within a second. So that's why I said it doesn't change the data too much. So I'm gonna put it in here. Before I tell you the times, let's talk about the 5 that I don't have data for how long the stated intermission would be, but I do have data for how long the intermissions actually were. So just to include those ones in here, one of them was 15 minutes. For the record, that I think is the maximum that an intermission should be. I mean, for a really long show, I can see 20, but 15 I think is the sweet spot. The next one had 29 minutes, a 29-minute intermission, which is not the longest one on my list. It's the second longest one, but it is the one that had the most time after the stated start time also. So it started 15 minutes late, and the intermission was half an hour, so like 45 minutes of just nothing. I liked that show. That was 9 to 5. I liked that show, but man, that's a lot of dead time. One of them was 19 minutes. That was a kid's show, so I kind of get if those ones are longer, especially if there's a lot of costume changes and scene changes and stuff like that. That was Matilda. One of them was 19 minutes. That's the longest show that I've seen so far this year. 3 hours and 7 minutes long. The start time was pretty good, only 2 minutes late, but the intermission was 19 minutes long. I like, again, these are the ones that I don't have data for how long they said it was, but that's long. But again, I kind of get it on a long show. Part of me is like, I want to get out of here, but part of me is like, okay, if we're gonna be in here for a while, give us a break. And then the last one that I don't have strong data for was 17 minutes. The whole show, this was Peter Pan, was only an hour 7. They started 6 minutes late, and the intermission was 17 minutes. So that's like 40 minutes, 45 minutes show. I mean, that's the one that my drive to the show was longer than the show itself. But let's talk now about the ones that I have actual data for. So in order, the 11 results that I have data for. The shortest late time was -3 minutes. Which one was this? I've lost it. I can't find it. Well, that's concerning. That's weird that I can't find it now. Where did this come from? Oh, I see. Okay. So the stated intermission was 15 minutes, but it only lasted 12 minutes. And that's even with me giving an extra minute because they did like a 50-50 raffle or something like that. So the intermission technically was over, but before that, again, kind of like with my start time, where I said I counted when people started talking. For the intermission, I'm going the other way. I'm going 50-50 raffles because a lot of them do that. I don't count that as the end of the intermission. I count the end of intermission as when the show starts again. So it's kind of like the opposite, but the idea is the show's not happening. So that's how I'm counting it. So stated 15 minutes, only lasted 12 minutes. That was one of my imprecise ones, so maybe you can give them another minute or two, but it was less than stated, which I think you should never do. Never give people less time, because then if they're late coming back, they're going to get mad at you. Next was my question mark that I didn't actually write down, but every other piece of data I have from 2 visits to the Cornstalk Theater, they're very punctual, it seems, so I'm counting that as a 0. 3 of them were actually 0. Let's see, which were these? These were Aladdin Jr., the 39 Steps at Cornstalk, and Little Shop of Horrors at the Marriott. So those ones, all of them said 15 minutes, and all of them were exactly 15 minutes. Way to go. That's my preferred intermission length. One of them was 1 minute late. Les Miserables at the Peoria Civic Center. They gave us it wasn't written in the program how long the intermission would be. They announced that it would be 18 minutes, which I thought was very odd, very specific, and then it was actually 19 minutes long. So it's like, why are you going to be that precise and specific and then still be wrong? So that was kind of funny. Next, we have 2 that were each 3 minutes late. Can I find these? Little Women stated 15, but it was actually 18. And Black Coffee also stated 15, but was actually 18. Then I have one that was 4 minutes late. That was Once Upon a Mattress. It was stated that it was 15 minutes. It was actually 19 minutes. Then my next kind of close but not exact, I had about 7 minutes late. That would have been Young Frankenstein. Stated 15. I had about 22. And then the longest gap. This isn't how long the intermission was. This is how late they were based on what they said the intermission was. 16 minutes late. This was Anastasia, the most recent one that I went to. They said intermission was going to be 15 minutes. It was 31 minutes long. That is the longest intermission on here. Interestingly, the longest stated intermission is 18 minutes. So none of them said, at least that I had written down for, none of them said 20 minutes or longer. 15 seems to be the sweet spot for what people say. 31 minutes. The length of time between when the intermission was supposed to end and when it actually ended was longer than how long the intermission was supposed to be. And that, again, that was a long show, 2 hours and 52 minutes long, but half an hour of it was an intermission. And again, I get doing longer intermissions on longer shows, but half an hour is too long. 31 minutes is too long. So there you go. Those are our stats for intermission lateness. I don't know what to call that. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying, but that's all we got for this one.